The unexpected invitation. Jake sat on the edge of his bed, looking at his reflection in the mirror. He was an ordinary human boy with messy hair and tired eyes. His school prom was just a week away, but he didn't have a date. He didn't care much about prom, but everyone kept asking him who he was taking. His best friend had already found someone. Jake felt left out and annoyed. Downstairs, his mom was making dinner. She was talking to someone in the kitchen, a guest with a soft, musical voice. Jake recognized it instantly. It was Lyra, his mom's old friend from another planet. Lyra had been visiting Earth for a few months, learning about humans and sharing stories about her world. She was tall and beautiful, with pale blue skin and silver hair that glowed faintly, like moonlight. Jake walked into the kitchen, trying not to look nervous. Lyra smiled at him, her eyes shining like stars. She always made him feel a little strange, nervous and curious at the same time. He remembered how his friends always joked about her. They called her the alien model because of how pretty she looked. His mom asked him, "Jake, have you found someone to go with you to prom?" Jake shrugged. "No one wants to go with me. Maybe I'll just skip it." Lyra tilted her head. Confused, "What is prom?" Jake laughed. "It's just a silly human party. Everyone dresses up and dances. Most people go with someone special." Lyra thought for a moment, then smiled. "That sounds fun. I have never been to a human party." Wild idea flashed in Jake's mind. Maybe he could make his friends laugh. Maybe he could stop their teasing. So he joked, "Lyra, will you go to prom with me?" The room went quiet. His mom looked surprised. Lyra, however, simply nodded and said, "Yes, I would be happy to go." Jake's jaw dropped. He hadn't expected her to say yes. For a moment, he didn't know what to say. Then he laughed awkwardly. "Okay, but you'll have to wear a dress. And you can't glow too much or you'll scare the teachers." Lyra smiled again, her silver hair sparkling. "I can control my glow. I promise not to scare anyone." His mom started laughing too. "Well, Jake, looks like you have a date now." The next day at school, Jake told his best friend about the FAO invitation. "I asked my mom's alien friend to prom as a joke, and she said yes." His friend stared at him in shock. "Dude, are you serious? You're taking an alien to prom?" "Yeah, she's really going. She's already planning her dress." The news spread like wildfire. By lunchtime, everyone in school was talking about Jake and his alien date. Some kids thought it was a prank. Others laughed and made jokes. A few were jealous. Jake pretended not to care, but inside, he felt nervous. When Jake got home, Lyra was already practicing human dances. She watched videos and tried to copy the moves. Her steps were awkward but graceful. She looked at Jake and asked, "Will you show me how to dance, Jake?" Jake blushed but nodded. "Sure, I'll teach you the basics." They practiced together in the living room. At first, Jake felt silly. But Lyra was a fast learner. She spun and moved with ease, her silver hair flowing behind her. Soon, Jake realized he was having fun. The night of the prom finally arrived. Jake wore a simple black suit. Lyra wore a long shimmering dress that matched her glowing hair. She had covered her skin with special powder, making her look more human. But her eyes still sparkled with alien beauty. As they drove to the school, Jake felt his hands shaking. "Are you sure you want to do this, Lyra?" Lyra smiled gently. "Yes, Jake. I want to understand your world. And I want to share this experience with you." When they entered the school gym, everyone stopped and stared. The music faded for a moment. Some students gasped, others whispered, and a few pulled out their phones to take pictures. Jake felt every eye on him, but Lyra seemed calm and confident. They walked to the center of the room. Jake's heart pounded. He heard someone whisper, "Is that really an alien?" Another student giggled. "Jake actually brought her." I thought he was joking. But Lyra smiled at everyone. her presence filling the room with a quiet, peaceful energy. The DJ, a nervous student, finally started the music again. Slowly, the crowd began to relax, but no one could take their eyes off Jake. And Lyra. As the night went on, Jake realized this wasn't just a silly joke anymore. He had brought someone truly special to prom. And this was only the beginning of a night, and a story that would change his life forever. The moment Jake and Lyra stepped further into the gym, the air seemed to thicken. Everyone was watching, but not a single person dared to approach. The lights spun, reflecting off Lyra's dress like tiny shooting stars. She looked around with wide, curious eyes, taking in every detail: the sparkling streamers, the tables piled with food, the big banner that said, "Welcome to prom night." Jake tried to ignore the whispers, but he heard them anyway. "She's not human, right? Did you see her eyes?" Why would Jake bring her? The teacher stood near the punch bowl, pretending not to notice, but Jake caught them glancing over, whispering among themselves. He took a deep breath and led Lyra to a corner where it was quieter. Lyra smiled, her silver hair gently brushing her shoulders. "Jake, is everyone always this interested in who comes to your human parties?" Jake shrugged, forcing a laugh. "Not really. Usually nobody cares, but you single quotes read well different." Lyra looked thoughtful. "I can sense strong emotions here. Some people are curious, some are afraid. A few are jealous of you." She tilted her head, studying a group of girls staring at them from across the room. "Why is that?" Jake smiled, a little embarrassed. "Because you're beautiful. And you're new. Nobody has ever brought an alien to prom before." Lyra blushed, her cheeks glowing faintly. "In my world, people celebrate new experiences. They welcome strangers. Maybe your friends will too, if we give them a chance." Jake nodded, though he wasn't sure. Suddenly, the music changed. A fast song started playing, and some students moved to the dance floor, trying to act like nothing was strange. But every so often, their eyes slid back to Jake and Lyra. Jake's best friend, Lucas, finally walked over, his face full of excitement and nerves. "Hey Jake, hi Lyra, welcome to, Earth Prom." Lyra bowed her head politely. "Thank you, Lucas. It is very bright and noisy." Lucas grinned, relaxing a little. "Yeah, it's always a bit much. You want some punch?" Jake nodded, grateful for the distraction. "Sure, let's go." They moved to the refreshment table. As Lyra poured herself a cup, two girls stepped up to her, their curiosity overpowering their shyness. "Your dress is amazing," said one, eyes wide. "Where did you get it?" Lyra smiled, pleased. "I made it. On my planet, we weave fabric from moonflowers." The girls gasped. "Moonflowers? What do they look like?" Lyra described the flowers with simple words, her voice full of wonder. More students gathered, listening as she spoke about her world, about glowing rivers, floating gardens, and crystal trees. For a few minutes, everyone forgot they were staring at an alien. They just wanted to hear her stories. Jake watched in surprise as the crowd around Lyra grew. Some asked her questions, others just smiled and nodded. Even the teachers looked less worried. Lyra's gentle voice, her kindness, and her patience made people relax. Then someone from the football team, a tall boy named Mark, pushed through the crowd. He grinned, trying to act cool in front of his friends. "Hey alien, can you do any tricks? Like glow in the dark or something?" A few kids laughed nervously, waiting for Lyra's reaction. Jake felt his fists clench, but Lyra just smiled calmly. "I can glow," she said, "but only when I feel safe and happy." Mark blinked, caught off guard. "Well, are you happy now?" Lyra looked at Jake, then at the curious faces around her. She smiled and let her skin shimmer softly, casting a faint blue light over the group. Everyone fell silent, their eyes wide with awe. Even the teachers seemed frozen. It's beautiful. Someone whispered. Just then, the DJ announced the start of the dance contest. The crowd cheered, and the mood shifted. Lucas nudged Jake. You two should enter. Come on, this is your chance. Jake hesitated, looking at Lyra. Do you want to try? Lyra nodded eagerly. Yes, I would like to dance. As they stepped onto the dance floor, the crowd parted for them. The music thumped, and students clapped along. Lyra watched the others and quickly matched the beat. Her movements were graceful, a mix of human steps and something more fluid, almost like she was floating. Jake tried to keep up, but he couldn't stop smiling. The crowd cheered louder with every spin and dip. Even Mark, the football player, clapped along. When the song ended, everyone burst into applause. Lyra laughed, happy and out of breath. For the first time, Jake felt like they truly belonged there, even if only for a moment. But deep inside, Jake knew something had changed. The way Lyra glowed when she looked at him. The way people saw them now, not as a joke, but as something special. And somewhere in that crowded room, a strange and wonderful story was only just beginning. The cheers from the dance contest were still ringing in Jake's ears as he and Lyra caught their breath by the side of the gym. For a while, it seemed like the whole room had forgotten their worries, drawn in by Lyra's gentle smile and otherworldly grace. Jake realized that maybe, just maybe, tonight wouldn't be a disaster after all. But prom night had more surprises in store. Ones Jake could never have imagined. As the next song started, the lights dimmed and a soft, dreamy melody floated through the air. Lyra looked at Jake, her bright eyes shining even in the shadows. She leaned in close and whispered, "In my world, we have a special dance for times like this. Would you share it with me?" Jake's heart thumped in his chest. "I'll try. Just show me what to do." Lyra nodded and gently took Jake's hands in hers. She guided him to the center of the dance floor, and for a moment, everything around them faded away. Lyra closed her eyes and hummed softly, letting her body sway in slow, elegant circles. She raised their joined hands, moving them in patterns that seemed simple at first, but soon, Jake realized this was unlike any dance he had ever seen. The other students started to notice. Some stopped dancing, turning to watch. Even the teachers fell silent as Lyra's voice grew louder, her song clear and haunting, filled with longing and hope. Jake followed her lead, awkward at first, but soon matching her steps as if they'd danced together forever. Then, it happened. As their hands met above their heads, a gentle blue glow surrounded them, bright enough to light up the darkened gym. The glow grew stronger, swirling around Jake and Lyra like mist. At first, the crowd gasped, some even stepped back, afraid of the unknown. But the longer they watched, the more they saw beauty instead of fear. Within the glow, Jake felt something strange, a warmth growing in his chest, spreading through his arms and legs. He wasn't scared. Instead, he felt safe, peaceful, almost like he belonged somewhere bigger than himself. He looked at Lyra and saw tears shining in her eyes. Their dance slowed. The light faded, and Lyra's song came to a gentle end. The silence that followed was so deep, even the DJ forgot to play the next song. For a moment, no one moved. Then, someone started to clap. One by one, everyone joined in until the whole gym was full of cheers and applause. Jake blushed, grinning from ear to ear. Lyra laughed softly, squeezing his hands before letting go. Jake barely heard Lucas shout, "That was awesome!" from the side of the room. All he could think about was the strange feeling that still lingered inside him, a gentle thrum in his heart, like something important had just happened. Lyra leaned close, her voice low. "Jake, I have never felt this way before. That dance. It is sacred to my people. Only those who trust each other completely share it." Jake blinked. "Really? What does it mean?" She smiled a little sadly. "It means we are connected. Now your world and mine. It is a bond that cannot be broken. Before Jake could ask what she meant, the school principal hurried over, eyes wide with worry and excitement. "Jake, Lyra, are you two all right? That was unlike anything I've seen. Are you safe?" Lyra nodded politely. "We are safe. This was a tradition from my world. Thank you for letting us share it." The principal managed a shaky smile and walked away, clearly unsure whether to be amazed or terrified. The rest of the night passed in a blur. Some students tried to copy the dance, but none could make the room glow like Jake and Lyra had. Many asked Lyra questions, curious about her world and the strange magic she seemed to carry. Some even apologized for laughing at her earlier. Jake realized he was no longer just the kid who brought an alien to prom. Now he was the boy who shared a real, impossible moment with someone from another world. For the first time, he felt proud of his choice. When the night ended, Jake and Lyra walked outside under the stars. The air was cool, and Lyra pulled her shawl tighter around her shoulders. Jake finally asked the question that had been burning in his mind. "Lyra, what really happened in there?" She looked up at the sky. When two souls share the sacred dance, they link their energy. On my world, this is rare even for my people. It's how new life begins, Jake. You may feel different now, and so will I. Jake stared at her, his heart pounding with questions and fear and hope all at once. He didn't know it yet, but this strange, beautiful night was just the beginning, and nothing would ever be the same for either of them again. The gym was almost empty when Jake and Lyra finally left, the last notes of music echoing in the cool night air. Lyra walked quietly by Jake's side, her silver hair shining under the streetlights. For a moment, Jake thought maybe the world would just go back to normal, but deep down, he knew something important had changed. As they reached the car, Jake noticed that Lyra was moving more slowly than before. She looked tired, even though she hadn't danced that much. When Jake opened the door for her, she smiled, but her hands trembled a little. "Are you okay?" Jake asked gently. Lyra nodded, but her eyes seemed far away. "I am different now. Jake, your world feels heavier, but also brighter." She smiled softly, but it faded quickly. "Let's go home." The drive was quiet. Jake stared out at the empty streets, thinking about everything that had happened, the dance, the glow, the connection Lyra talked about. He had so many questions but couldn't find the right words. When they reached home, Jake's mom was waiting at the door, worry written all over her face. "How was the dance?" she asked, trying to sound casual. Jake shrugged. "It was unforgettable." Lyra gave a small bow. "Thank you for welcoming me into your home. I hope I did not cause trouble at your human celebration." His mom smiled, but she kept glancing at Lyra's glowing eyes. "You're always welcome here. Lyra, you both look exhausted. Why don't you get some rest?" Jake went to his room, but he couldn't sleep. He lay awake, replaying the dance in his mind, the way the light had wrapped around them, the feeling that had settled deep in his chest. Was it real? Or just some strange trick of the light? He didn't know. Down the hall, Lyra sat on the edge of her guest bed, staring at her hands. She could feel her body changing. Something inside her was different, growing and shifting in ways she didn't understand. Her people only experienced this kind of transformation when a deep bond had been formed. It was rare, even among her own kind. For it to happen with a human was unthinkable. That night, Lyra dreamt of her homeworld, crystal lakes, silver trees, and the sacred dance under twin moons. In her dream, a new life was taking shape, a spark of both human and alien glowing with possibility. The next morning, Jake woke to the smell of breakfast. He found Lyra sitting quietly at the table, a cup of tea trembling in her hand. She looked paler than usual, and her eyes seemed even brighter. Jake's mom poured coffee for everyone. "You two were the talk of the town last night," she said. trying to make light conversation. The principal called me. He said the whole school can't stop talking about your dance. Jake's cheeks turned red. We didn't mean to make a scene. Lyra placed her hand over Jake's, her touch gentle. Your world and mine are closer now, Jake. Sometimes change is noisy. Suddenly, there was a knock at the door. Jake's heart jumped. When his mom opened the door, they found 2 teachers from Jake's school standing outside, Mrs. Allen, the science teacher, and Mr. Grant, the gym coach. We just wanted to check in, Mrs. Allen said. There was a lot of excitement last night. Are you both all right? Lyra answered calmly, we are well, thank you for your concern. Mr. Grant shuffled his feet, clearly uncomfortable. Some students thought, maybe you used special effects. The lights, the singing. People are confused. Jake's mom nodded politely. Everything's fine, we just had a unique celebration. The teachers left soon after, but Jake could tell the questions weren't going away. By lunchtime, his phone was buzzing with messages. Some were kind, some were not. Alien lover, one text read. Another said, is she magic or what? Jake tried to ignore them, but the words stung. He closed his phone and went outside, needing fresh air. Lyra followed him, holding her hands together. Jake, are you ashamed of what happened? Jake shook his head. No, I don't like people making fun of you. Lyra smiled, her eyes soft. Your world is still learning, Jake. Fear is loud, but kindness grows quietly. Suddenly, Lyra wobbled and grabbed Jake's arm. He caught her, worry flooding his face. Lyra, you need to rest. Something's wrong, isn't it? She nodded. Slowly, I can feel changes inside me. My body is not the same as before. Jake helped her back inside, his heart pounding with worry. We need to tell my mom. She know what to do. That night, the 3 of them sat together in the living room. Lyra explained as best she could about the sacred dance, the energy she felt, and the way her people sometimes changed after forming a deep bond. She looked at Jake's mom with pleading eyes. I do not want to cause trouble for your family. Jake's mom reached out, taking Lyra's hand. You're part of our family now, Lyra. Whatever happens, we'll face it together. As darkness fell, Jake stared up at the stars, feeling the weight of everything that had changed in just one night. He knew the world would have questions. But for now, all that mattered was Lyra and the strange, beautiful connection they shared. Promised himself, whatever happened next, he wouldn't let her face it alone. Days passed after prom, but the world did not return to normal for Jake or Lyra. Instead, each morning brought something new and strange. Jake noticed Lyra slept longer than before, and sometimes stared out the window as if searching for answers only she could understand. Her silver hair, once smooth and bright, now had streaks of gold that shimmered when she moved. She seemed both tired and quietly happy at the same time. Jake's mom kept a close eye on Lyra, making her eat and rest. She worried about Lyra's glowing skin and how she barely touched her breakfast, except for strawberries and sweet bread. Jake started to worry too. At school, he had become the center of attention, but not in a way he liked. Kids whispered and pointed. Some called him the alien's boyfriend. Others asked wild questions about Lyra's powers. Jake tried to ignore them all, but the stares followed him everywhere. One afternoon when Jake came home, he found Lyra sitting on the back porch. She was wrapped in a blanket, even though the sun was warm. Jake sat beside her and asked, "Are you feeling okay today?" Lyra nodded, but there was a sadness in her eyes. "I am changing, Jake. I do not fully understand it. My people do not usually bond like this with humans." Jake tried to smile, hoping to make her feel better. "Maybe you just need more rest. Or maybe it's earth food. My mom always says human food can do strange things." Lyra managed a small laugh. "Your world is full of surprises." That night, something happened that changed everything. Jake was reading in his room when he heard a faint cry. He rushed to the hallway and found his mom already there, holding Lyra's hand as she sat on the edge of the bed, breathing quickly. Her skin glowed brighter than ever, casting gentle light across the room. Jake's mom looked at him with wide eyes. "Jake, call Dr. Howard, now." Jake fumbled for his phone, hands shaking. Dr. Howard was the only doctor in town who knew about Lyra's true nature and kept it a secret. 10 minutes later, Dr. Howard arrived, carrying his old black bag and a face full of concern. He checked Lyra's pulse and asked gentle questions about her pain, her cravings, and the strange warmth in her chest. Finally, Dr. Howard stepped into the kitchen with Jake and his mom. He looked nervous, searching for the right words. "Lyra is healthy, but she is also expecting. She's pregnant." The words hit Jake like a shockwave. He could barely breathe. Pregnant? But how? Dr. Howard shrugged, clearly confused by his own answer. She described the sacred dance, the energy she felt, the connection. Somehow, during that moment, your DNA mixed. It's not impossible for aliens and humans to have children, but it's never happened here before. Jake stared at the doctor, then at his mom, who was already crying, half in shock, half in happiness. Lyra, overhearing their voices, slowly walked into the kitchen. "Is this normal for humans? To feel so much all at once?" Jake's mom hugged her gently. "Yes, Lyra, it's called being a family." The next days were a blur of new routines. Lyra needed more rest, and strange cravings grew stronger. She ate pickles with jam, drank hot chocolate with chili powder, and sometimes fell asleep listening to Jake talk about human life. Jake's mom taught her how to knit baby hats and showed her old family photos. Even Dr. Howard visited often, bringing books about pregnancy and baby care, none of which mentioned aliens. Of course, word began to spread, even though they tried to keep it secret. Neighbors dropped by, pretending they needed to borrow sugar, but always asking about Lyra. Some were friendly, bringing gifts and wishing her well. Others whispered behind closed doors, afraid of what the future might hold. Jake found himself protecting Lyra everywhere they went. He walked her to the park, shielded her from rude questions at the store, and comforted her when the changes became overwhelming. At night, they sat on the porch and watched the stars together. Lyra would whisper stories of her world, and Jake would promise to stand by her no matter what, but not everyone was happy for them. Late one night, while Jake sat awake worrying about the future, a dark car parked on the street outside their house. Two strangers in suits got out, quietly snapping photos. Jake saw the flash through the curtains and felt a chill run down his spine. He knew their lives would never be private again. Inside, Lyra rested her hand on her growing belly, feeling the life inside her, a life born from two worlds. She smiled, dreaming of a day when no one would be afraid, and her child could run free under Earth's sun. For Jake, everything had changed. But as he watched Lyra sleep, he realized he was no longer afraid. He was ready for whatever the future might bring. As long as they faced it together, life at Jake's house became anything but normal after the news about Lyra's pregnancy. Each day brought new surprises and new challenges. Lyra's belly grew a little bigger, her golden streak shining brighter with every week. Jake, his mom, and even Dr. Howard adjusted their lives to care for her and the tiny life inside her. But it wasn't easy. There were good days when laughter filled the kitchen as Lyra tried to cook human pancakes or watch cartoons with Jake, learning to laugh at silly jokes. She asked questions about everything. Why do humans sing in the shower? Why do dogs wag their tails? Why do humans cry when they're happy? Jake's answers made her giggle, and sometimes she'd share strange facts from her home. "On my planet," Lyra explained one morning, "flowers sing at sunrise, and the rivers glow when you whisper secrets to them." Jake would listen, wide-eyed, feeling a growing sense of wonder and pride that he was the one she shared these secrets with. But there were hard days, too. Sometimes Lyra's energy would fade suddenly, and she'd collapse onto the sofa, trembling with cold or heat. Human food sometimes made her sick, and the strange cravings only got weirder. One afternoon, she tried to eat a banana dipped in ketchup, then made a face and laughed. "This is not my favorite," she admitted, wrinkling her nose. Jake's mom became an expert in both human and alien pregnancy care. She searched the internet for anything remotely similar and read every sci-fi story she could find, hoping for clues. At night, she'd sit with Lyra, holding her hand and humming gentle lullabies. "You're part of our family now," she would say softly, and Lyra would smile, feeling loved even in her most difficult moments. Outside the house, curiosity grew. News reporters parked across the street, cameras pointed at their door. Some neighbors brought gifts, soft blankets, baby clothes, flowers, and sometimes even alien-themed toys. Others kept their distance, whispering about the miracle child. Jake heard wild rumors at school. Some said Lyra was a government experiment. Others claimed she could read minds or change the weather. Then, one morning, two people in dark suits knocked on their door. They introduced themselves as scientists from the government, wanting to study the unique event. They offered Lyra a room at a special hospital and promised to keep her safe. But Jake's mom stood firm. "She stays here with her family," she insisted, her voice steady and calm. Jake held Lyra's hand tightly, and for the first time, she looked truly afraid. "I do not want to be a science project," she whispered, eyes full of worry. Jake nodded. "You won't be. We'll protect you." Dr. Howard helped as much as he could, running private checkups at home. He used strange gadgets from his travels, and even called an alien friend he met years ago. Together, they made sure Lyra's health was stable and the baby was growing strong. They couldn't do much more, but it made everyone feel less alone. Jake found new courage in these challenges. He skipped parties to stay home with Lyra, learning how to comfort her through her worries and fears. He read bedtime stories to her, taught her how to play chess, and even helped her knit a tiny blue hat for the baby. Sometimes he would sit by the window at night, watching the sky and thinking about the future. He wondered what their child would look like. Would they have Lyra's glowing eyes or his silly smile? Lyra, in turn, taught Jake about her language. She spoke gentle words he'd never heard before, and sometimes she would sing softly, a melody so haunting and beautiful that it brought tears to his eyes. She told him that the song was a blessing for new life, a promise that, even in a world full of fear and strangeness, love could always find a way. The days blurred together. Then, one evening, a storm rolled in, thunder shaking the windows. Lyra stood by the glass, her hands on her belly, watching the rain. Jake joined her, placing his hand beside hers. "Are you scared?" Jake asked softly. She shook her head. "No, not when you're here." Suddenly, Lyra gasped, her whole body tense. Jake's heart leaped as he realized what was happening. "Mom, Dr. Howard. I think it's starting." His mom rushed in, already grabbing towels and hot water. Dr. Howard arrived soon after, his bag ready. The world outside faded away. No reporters, no neighbors, no government scientists. Only the family, together, waiting for the greatest change of all. As the storm roared and lightning flashed outside, inside the small house, Jake and Lyra held hands. Through the fear and excitement, one truth remained. They were not alone. Human and alien, together, facing the unknown as a family, and somewhere in the night, a new heartbeat waited to join their world. The world outside Jake's house was wild with storm and curiosity. News vans still lined the street, their lights flashing through the rain. Scientists waited in cars. Neighbors peeked from behind curtains. But inside, in the small living room, lit by a single lamp, Everything was focused on Lyra and the life about to enter their world. Jake knelt beside Lyra, holding her hand tightly. His mother moved with calm urgency, guiding Lyra's breathing, whispering words of comfort. Dr. Howard checked her pulse and smiled softly. "You're doing great, Lyra. Not much longer now." The wind howled, making the old house shudder. But inside, it was warm. Lyra's face was pale, a soft glow flickering beneath her skin. Her silver and gold hair stuck to her forehead, but her eyes were bright, filled with both fear and hope. She looked at Jake and squeezed his hand, her voice barely a whisper. "Thank you for being here." Jake smiled, his own heart pounding. So loudly he thought everyone could hear it. "I wouldn't be anywhere else." The hours passed slowly, time marked only by Lyra's breaths and the gentle words of the people who loved her. Jake's mom wiped her brow and offered her sips of water, while Dr. Howard hummed quietly, almost like a lullaby. Suddenly, a soft cry echoed through the room, a sound so new and pure that everything else faded away. Jake's eyes filled with tears as he watched Dr. Howard wrap the tiny baby in a warm blanket. The baby blinked up at the world, small hands waving, eyes as blue as the evening sky. But there was something different, too. Around the baby's head, a faint golden halo shimmered, just like Lyra's hair. Lyra reached out, trembling, and Jake helped her hold the baby for the first time. For a moment, she simply stared, tears rolling down her glowing cheeks. "She's beautiful," Lyra whispered. Jake touched the baby's tiny fingers, amazed at the softness. He could see both worlds in her face, Lyra's gentle eyes and silver glow, his own nose and chin. He laughed through his tears, unable to believe this was real. "She's perfect." His mom wrapped them both in a blanket and sat close, her eyes shining with pride and relief. "Welcome to the family, little one," she said softly. They named the baby Mira, a name that meant miracle on Lyra's planet and wonder in an old Earth language. As the storm outside faded, a strange peace settled over the house. The world still watched, but inside, only love mattered. Later, as the first sunlight crept through the windows, Lyra sang to Mira in her native tongue, a song so sweet and haunting that Jake closed his eyes, letting the melody fill the room. Mira listened too, wide-eyed, her tiny hand gripping Jake's finger. The news spread quickly. Reporters camped outside for days, begging for interviews. Some people cheered, calling Mira a child of hope who would unite two worlds. Others were afraid, worried about what her birth meant for humans and aliens everywhere. Jake's family stayed close, protecting Mira and Lyra from the curious crowds. Friends and neighbors brought gifts, tiny hats, homemade cookies, even painted pictures of Mira with her glowing halo. Some offered help. Others just wanted to see a miracle for themselves. A few days later, government scientists returned. But this time, they weren't so harsh. One of them, a young woman with kind eyes, spoke softly to Lyra, promising respect and privacy. She even brought a small book of baby names from every culture on Earth, hoping Mira would one day know she belonged everywhere. Slowly, fear and anger outside turned to fascination and hope. Mira became a symbol for something bigger, a future where humans and aliens could live together, learn from each other, and share the same sky. Jake felt himself changed too. He wasn't just a boy who brought an alien to prom as a joke. He was a father now, part of a story the whole world would remember. He cared less about the whispers and more about the moments at home. Lyra singing softly, his mom telling stories, Mira cooing and grabbing his finger. One night, as the stars filled the sky, Jake sat on the porch with Lyra and Mira. The world outside was quiet for once, the wind gentle. Lyra leaned against his shoulder, tired but happy. "Did you ever imagine this?" she asked, smiling. Jake shook his head. "Not in a million years." Lyra laughed, the sound light and full of hope. "On my planet, They say the bravest hearts create new worlds. I think you are the bravest, Jake. Jake smiled, looking down at Mira. We both are. All three of us. As dawn broke, Jake realized this was just the beginning. There would be challenges, and maybe even danger, but there would always be hope too. Mira would grow up loved by both her worlds. And maybe, one day, she would walk between the stars, showing everyone that miracles could be real if you just dared to believe. In that moment, under the rising sun, their new life truly began.